Travis Wingood cell. One of the bad things about having a fan to keep the apartment cool is that it blows the dirt that I'm allergic to right smack into my eyes. Out of the frying pan into the fire. I'm watching last night's episode of Blacklist. I decided to do this video for you, but Reddington is trying to handle all sides, as all sides are not cooperating, and saves the FBI agent's life, but then makes enemies with the Russian task force, and has another guy caught who's not supposed to be caught. So, yeah. In the world of spying, they use code language to communicate in case it's intercepted by the enemy. You obviously don't want to have your plans revealed to your enemy so that your enemy can destroy you. As I've told you, I worked on what became published in 2009 for the foreign language editions of the scriptures. The English version was first done in 1981 with the finishing of the triple combination. The Bible was done in 1979. As part of the 1981 edition, the church service missionaries like me in 2000 to 2004 worked on trying to decode the coded names and places that they had found. The Community of Christ, which was originally the Reorganized Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, by Smith III, still keep the coded version. The FBI thinks he's a traitor. And they're purposely keeping this all from us. Hilarious. And so, under the Wikipedia page, list of code names in the Doctrine and Covenants. It helps with what they were able to decode. And they claim that it was the 1835 edition of the Doctrine and Covenants that they were working off of. As they do not understand that it was also the 1833 edition, and it was the church history, and it was the Book of Mormon, who were also encoded. This is what we get to talk about. So, for example, a list of code names for people: Ehashda, Newell K. Whitney, Alam, Edward Partridge, Banimi, Lyman White, but Orson Pratt in 1876 said it was mine elders. Barak L, Joseph Smith, Enoch, Joseph Smith, Gazilim, Joseph Smith, Horah, John Whitmer, Mahaleel, Algernon Sidney Gilbert, Mahemson, Martin Harris, Oliha, Oliver Cowdery, Pelagorum, Sidney Rigdon, Shalamanassa, William Wines Phelps, Shedder Monach, Frederick Z. Williams, Zombie, John Johnson, and Canaan Hannock, New York, Floyd Place, Shinehaw, Kirtland, Ohio, which is interesting. They call that Shinehaw, the sun. So, yeah, those help you understand that, yes, there was the usage by the Smiths of coding in the Doctrine and Covenants. But we need to show you that they missed some from the Book of Commandments, as well as in the Doctrine and Covenants from 1835. November 1st, 1831 is the preface section for the Doctrine and Covenants, section 1. It got bumped up to number 1. And we first need to identify a direct code here. And if you go down to verse 16, perish in Babylon, even Babylon the Great, which shall fall. Babylon already fell to the Persians a long, long time ago. This is code. They didn't decode it. They missed it on purpose. Because if you knew what it's coded to be America, you'd go, oh crap. And so, knowing that there's code prior to 1835, that the church service missionaries missed codes. Now we can go over the Doctrine and Covenants again and see other codes. 17, wherefore I, the Lord. Code, knowing the calamity which should come upon the inhabitants of the earth, called upon my servant Joseph Smith Jr. Well, they didn't code that name. No, they didn't, did they? Not until the 1835 edition. But Lord is coded. Who would be the Lord who called Joseph Smith to take over as the leader of the church, as the front man? Anybody watch Batman? Who's the Lord of the Manor? I am God, I have spoken it. Is that a quote? Speaking in the name of God, the Lord, yeah. For I, the Lord. Oh, here they use Idumea, or the world. So now let's go to this is kind of distracting for me. I wasn't sure if this was going to work. The church history. There are some things that are not accurate for Joseph Smith's history. For example, Harmony, Susquehanna River, Pennsylvania. No. Harmony is in a different location from Susquehanna River, Pennsylvania. Also, Nephi, if you didn't know that, the church claims that, well, it was corrected. No. It's Nephi, because it's coded. It didn't happen. None of it happened. And this is going to come as a shock, the first vision, Heavenly Father and Jesus, didn't happen. They're code. Jesus Christ is code. Jesus Christ in the Book of Mormon is code. It's all code. And you have to learn how to decode it to understand what the message is that is being presented to us. And so, if you are unfamiliar with Mormonism, as all Mormons are, 1 Nephi chapter 1 verse 2, the record is made in the language of my father, which consists of the learning of the Jews and the language of the Egyptians. Who's Nephi? Who's writing the record? Or who's being accused of writing the record? By looking in a hat with rocks in it. Yeah. Nephi is Joseph Smith. And he's saying that he's writing his record, but he's not writing the record. Again, we just read that in verse 16. Wherefore I, the Lord, called Joseph Smith to be the leader. It's Joseph Smith Sr., who's the father of Nephi, who is Lehi. And it is Smith Sr. who is the one who has the learning of the Jews and the language of the Egyptians. Well, what is the learning of the Jews? Are they Jewish? New Israelites, guys. New Israelites. Under New Israelites in Wikipedia, founded by Nathaniel Wood in Vermont. Sound familiar? 1790s. And then they say possible connection to Mormonism. No. There is a connection. They were involved in Jewish mysticism. The learning of the Jews. Jewish mysticism has to do with the tree of life. Oh, yeah, like in the Book of Mormon? The 116 pages that had to be rewritten according to Joseph Smith Sr.'s dreams of trees of life. Yeah. And they believed that they were the descendants of the lost 10 tribes of Israel. And so they believed in prophecy, a dietary code, but they also believed that Hebrew was angelic, an angelic language, which goes along with Jewish mysticism. This is a Christian Congregationalist variation, in case you were wondering. This is what Joseph Smith Jr. is referring to in the mouth of his father in the Book of Mormon. And so, yes, it's I, Joseph Smith Sr., writing on behalf of my son, Joseph Smith Jr., having been born of goodly parents. Hilarious. Make sure you put in that your parents are good. And so now you can decode the Book of Mormon. It's talking about the Smiths, but they're using coded manners of speech. And so it's not the first year of the reign of King Zedekiah. That's the code. You need to know the date of what they're referring to for these events. It's not 597. Commercials. Stone Cold, because he said so. I actually liked watching him wrestle. Sort of. I guess it's not really wrestling. It's just pretending to throw a punch. But anyway, in verse 8, Thus, being overcome with the Spirit, he was carried away in a vision, even that he saw the heavens opened. There's your key word for a sign in the heavens, giving you a date. Thought he saw God sitting upon his throne. Where do we find that? Revelation chapter 12. Sign of the birth of the Son of Man, which is actually not the birth, when you realize that his death is 7 years later, 8 years later, 7 years. It's an 8-year period of time, so 7 years later. Those are the latter days that they're putting in here. This is the warning. And it's not Babylon this time. Babylon is now Jerusalem. The Doctrine and Covenants says Babylon. Book of Mormon uses Jerusalem for America. America is going to be overrun, destroyed. They gave us the date, 2017 to 2024. So who was the president put in 2017? Oh, you mean the one who's a puppet king, just like Zedekiah was a puppet king of our enemy, Russia. Didn't the church say they were working with Russia in the Solemn Assembly in 2018, April? Yes, they were. So, yeah, that it should be destroyed, and the inhabitants thereof, many should perish by the sword, and many should be carried away captive into Russia. We're going to be taken captive into Russia? What would they want us in Russia for? So, yeah, that's how you decode the scriptures, the Mormon scriptures. And you're getting it exclusive from me because I'm the decoder. I'm the one who found out Joseph Smith is an actual translator, that it wasn't a mantle of power that he automatically can translate, or by having a Urim and Thummim by which he can then do it, without any effort, research, study, education, etc. on his part. No, Joseph Smith learned Hebrew in order to translate Hebrew in 1844 in a King Follett discourse. He had to learn how to translate Egyptian. Who would have taught him? We get the clue right here in the Book of Mormon. The language of the Egyptians, but the learning of the Jews. What's the Rosetta Stone? The learning of the Greeks, the language of the Egyptians. 1822, Jean Champollion deciphered Egyptian, published it throughout all the world, well, through the British colonies, and thus in America. And so this is where they got certain names, but they had knowledge of these names through the York Rites Freemasonry, of which the Smiths were a part of. You didn't know that? Well, let's click on Joseph Smith Sr. In the opening paragraph, Freemason in Ontario Lodge, number 23, Canandaigua, New York. They claim a citation is needed. No, it's not. We all know it. All Freemasons know it. He was preserved in the records that survived. Sorry, Heber. Oops, you should have checked before you wrote it in your journal otherwise. Trying to deceive us. In fact, in early life, he is said to have raised to a Master Mason. 7 May 1818. That's why he was given Canandaigua, New York. That's why he was given the farm. And so, then 1820, first vision, Writing about it in 1838? Huh. No. And then 1823, Nephi comes? No. Try someone else as code, which... Oh, wrong one. Let us go to the book of Enos so that we can go into the book of Jacob. Anybody familiar with the mystic tie? It's Scottish rites. The usurpers, whom the Illuminati usurpers infiltrated and threatened America with the 1826 anti-Mason movement. Oops, I'm missing the show. This isn't working. 10 minutes left. And so it says in chapter 7, verse 27, the final passage, his final farewell. Again, mystic tie, Scottish rites, Jacobite. And I, Jacob, saw that I must soon go down to my grave. Wherefore I said unto my son Enos, take these plates. Anybody familiar with the Knights Templar? Egyptian treasure plates, Friday the 13th, America, 1363, Kensington Stone, Southern Illinois, buried treasure plates in Egyptian, in the caves. Anything sound familiar with the claims in the church history? And I told him the things which my brother Nephi had commanded me. So, Master Mason is the leader, gives commandments. Jacob is the word for usurper, but he's the good guy Jacob, not the King Jacob who tries to overthrow America. I mean the Nephites, by establishing a king in place of the constitution of Mosiah, who gave up the kingdom for the reign of the judges. And so we have Jacob, we have his brother, Freemason brother, who's the one who gives commandments and orders as to what to do. Have you read William Morgan's book that wasn't really his, but the Batavian press needed to make up the money they lost by investing in him? Anybody know where he was arrested, by the way? I've done all these videos. You guys should already know all this. Jacob is William Morgan. Brother Nephi is Joseph Smith Sr. And who then would be my son Enos? Somebody who knew how to be the go-between guy, to dictate what Sidney Rigdon, remember the major author of the Book of Mormon, would tell him, and then give it to Joseph Smith Jr. as he's supposed to be distracting Martin Harris, who is on the anti-Mason committee in Palmyra, but takes him out to Harmony. Takes him away from Palmyra to distract him with rocks in a hat. What would happen to those parchments afterward? Well, they never made it. They were destroyed, remember? Who took over? Oliver Cowdery did. Did William Cowdery, the father of Oliver Cowdery, have anything to do with the New Israelites? Yes, Oliver Cowdery is Enos. He took the manuscripts of William Morgan, gave them to Sidney Rigdon, who was working on the 116 pages. And Smith Sr. was the one who controlled the whole thing, told how the narrative was supposed to go, and put people in their positions to do the work. And he promised obedience unto the commands. And I make an end of my writing upon these plates. I'm being arrested. They're not going to let me finish the book, which writing has been small. And to the reader I bid farewell. Mystic Tie, hoping that many of my brethren may read my words. This is technically for the York Rites Masons, which the Smiths then organized the Church of Christ to be the continuation of the York Rites Masons, of the Knights Templar, the Holy Grail, Egyptian treasure plates, the bloodline of King David for the Millennial Messiah. Brethren, adieu. Not adieu. Don't fall for the rabbit hole of the apologists for the church. It is brethren, adieu. This is a Freemason mystic tie, Jacobite code that's being used here. William Morgan usurped the secret plot against America, had contacted Joseph Smith Sr., and Joseph Smith Sr., being the Master Mason, organized what to be done. He helped William Morgan escape the country to save his life. Then Smith Sr. took the responsibility to finish the publication of the book, which became the Book of Mormon. They give us the dates right in the beginning, 2017 to 2024. The Book of Mormon then goes into examples of what their plans are. That in 2020 there is going to be an election that King Jacob will lose, despite being put in 2017. And all Mormons missed it. And I wonder why. I wonder which Freemason organization Brigham Young and Heber C. Kimball were a part of.